Welcome to Vibe Querying with MCP, the show where we don't just query data, we vibe with it. I'm Jared, the one asking, how does it work?
And I'm Marie, the one asking, what does it mean for the business? And before we jump into today's episode, we are going to explain the technologies that we're using here.
That's right. And so it all starts with Model Context Protocol, or MCP for short. It's the protocol developed by Anthropic. And really, it just defines the way that AI agents, LLMs, can communicate with external systems, whether that's a CRM, an ERP, or any other data system.
And the way that we use MCP in today's episode will be through CData's Connect Cloud product. And so we're able to connect any source that you want from your enterprise data to CData Connect Cloud with one MCP URL configuration to your AI client, which will be Claude in today's episode. You're able to access any of your enterprise data through your AI chat interface.
Yeah, and that brings us to this concept of vibe querying. Vibe querying, like vibe coding, is just a way to use natural language to ask questions of your data, to do analytics, and even perform actions. So you can get information about your opportunities, you can close tickets, all without having to write a single line of code. You can just prompt your client to do that for you, to build dashboards, to give you insights, maybe even prescribe some actions based on the information that it finds within your business systems.
And what we show you in each of our vibe querying episodes is we'll take that concept, the idea of vibe querying, and we'll bring on a special guest and show how they use the vibe querying method to get insights for their job, for their function, and get deep insights on their business that they wouldn't get otherwise. That would take, manual data pulls or hours of reporting or dashboard building.
Yeah, so in today's episode, we are returning to vibing for product management. This episode's really about two things. Number one, addressing sales data hygiene. So do we have documented use cases for all of our opportunities? And secondly, understanding our customers' business challenges and those use cases to inform our product roadmap, marketing decisions, and more. We'll be looking only at Salesforce data today, but with CData's technology and our MCP servers, you could be looking at data spread across a variety of sources.
Our guest this episode is Jonathan Hikita, Director of Product Management at CData. Welcome to the show, Jonathan. Are you ready to vibe with us?
Hi, I'm very excited to join this show.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, I know that you've been doing this already. I think ever since the MCP servers were launched and available, you have been probably one of our primary users on the product team, just digging in and figuring out how things work. A, because you're a product manager for our drivers level products, which MCP slots into, and B, because there are actual answers that you can get from this. But before we start really digging in, as the one who wants to know how it works, can you describe the environment that you're querying, like the data set out of Salesforce, like what we're looking at today?
Okay, so today we will be sharing how I gather customer use case from Salesforce. So the data source is Salesforce, and I use CData MCP server to connect Salesforce data to Claude that I'm using. And I will be using Claude desktop version today. And
Okay.
from the Salesforce, I will be mainly using opportunity and also the use case object that in our company use as custom object.
Okay. And then, so that use case object for your role, for the product that you manage, I mean, there are a lot of combos there, right?
It is a crazy number. So the breakdown is for the data sources like Salesforce, SAP, Dynamics, we cover 270 or more as driver. And also we have close to 200 read-only profiles. So that's total is close to 500. And we also have the data consumer side, which are like BI tools, ETL tools, AI platform, and we have tested over 200. So
Okay.
the combination will be around 100,000.
Yeah.
And we have thousands of customers and OEM using those scenario. But we need to know which scenario we should be focusing for the customers. So, but digging those scenarios from the data all over in Salesforce, it is a pain.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, with that many combinations. So I think normally, I'll show the setup, but I think with the amount of data that you've got and some of the questions that we've talked through prior to doing the episode, I think we really want to spend as much time as we can actually in Claude with you asking.
And then just a note for our audience that might not be familiar with a driver or CData's driver's business. The point of that product and what we sell here is essentially to get your data from where it is to where you want it to go. CData is a connectivity company. This is what we do, and we are built on a driver foundation. So when Jonathan talked about all of those combinations of sources that we connect to and the destinations where we can surface that data, that's all the permutations that he's talking about, and that's what we'll be looking at with the Salesforce data today. So just a note as we jump into our questions. So kind of with that understanding and with that in the background, Jonathan, can you take us into Claude and our first question of the day?
Okay, let's go. So my first question for the day is from the latest Salesforce opportunity, find 10 opportunities that are new business and have no use case object associated.
And as Claude thinks about that, I know we briefly touched on the use case object, but from a technical perspective in Salesforce, this is, and you can correct me, Jonathan, a fully custom object that we've built out in our Salesforce instance, typically associated to an opportunity. Is that the right structure?
Yes, that's what it is.
Awesome. Yes,
Yeah.
and both for our product friends and as certainly in marketing and product marketing, the use case object tends to contain all the gold that we're looking for. So I'm excited to see what Claude produces.
Yeah. And I think that's, not to get too markety here, but that's one of the hallmarks of CData's connectivity, is the fact that we have access to all of the custom objects, all of the custom fields that are available within the platforms that we connect to. So Salesforce, NetSuite, HubSpot, any of those data sources that people are running their businesses out of that have custom objects and custom fields, you'll be able to get to with CData's MCP technology.
And I think for folks that are dedicated listeners to our series, and I know there are many of you out there, we have done Salesforce across many episodes so far. And I think that, when we do our episode prep, we debate if we should do another one or not. But there's just so much data within Salesforce and it touches so many parts of the business that we always think there is a good opportunity to show something new and different with a Salesforce-based episode. And I think that this use case and the questions Jonathan will walk us through today can showcase that. And I think what is also my last interesting point on use cases, and then we'll take a look at what Claude is telling us, is that it's really another example of a combination of, looking at unstructured data or unstructured text within a structured system. And so when you talk about AI, you talk about AI connectivity, a lot of people think of unstructured use cases. I'm reading, a 20-page document and my AI or my LLM can read through that really well. And that's certainly a powerful use case. But I think that principle translates to what we're looking at here. There's unstructured data, unstructured text in my Salesforce that I want to get at. And that CData MCP servers can help do. And we kind of saw this with, support ticket information or task commentary in previous use cases. And I think we're seeing another example of that here today.
Yes, exactly. If use case were in, like all use cases were in use case object in structured way, it'll be easy to extract and analyze what customers wants to do. But in many cases, those use cases information are scattered in email conversation and what our sales representative are noting, and also in the maybe in the support case information. So we need to do, we need to get data from those unstructured sources. Okay, so now Claude did search through opportunity tables and also look at how the schema works on use case object and how it's associated relations. And now it's giving me the 10 opportunity that does not have use case information associated.
Okay.
So JDBC, Salesforce, QuickBooks, connecting from Power BI,
Yep.
SAP HANA to Databricks. So we have those cases, opportunity that does not have detailed information on the use case. But this just name doesn't really explain fully on the use case. So let's create another prompt to turn those unstructured text data into structured use case data. So now read email messages from activities, other descriptions in the opportunities object, and cases to identify the use cases of 10 opportunities. Use cases should have data source information, connecting technology, data consumer or data destination, and the purpose. Okay.
Let's see. I love that, what you're doing here, Jonathan, because you're trying to find the gap in the information you need and then using Claude to fill that gap for you. So it's brilliant and personal.
No. And this is a really good example of, I think Jacqueline said it first, this idea of purposeful prompting. So going beyond what we call vibe querying, where you're giving some very specific instructions to the LLM, which it really thrives on. It improves performance, it gets you a lot closer to an answer the first time you ask. And I think we're seeing this pattern, persist in the greater ecosystem as people are exploring AI and LLMs, using MCP servers to perform tasks and do analytics and things. The better your prompt, the more direct you are, the better your results will be. So.
This is great. And I think one other interesting note here is that I think one of the reasons why people get so excited about AI and LLMs is that exactly what you described, Jonathan, at the beginning. Like if every rep put in, every detail into a structured data format in the use case object, we wouldn't need to do this, right? Because we would just be able to do traditional reporting based on that. But it's kind of bridging that gap between that would be a lot of manual and meaningless work for a human to go break up their notes and fill out a field. And you'd also likely lose a lot of the context and some of the nuance that you get from the text itself. And so I think that's kind of the bridge that is so helpful, and that's what people get so excited about when we see this combination of enterprise data sources with Claude or another LLM. So I think this is a great example of that. But we've been talking a lot. We haven't actually looked at what Claude's been doing. So Jerry, would you want to tell us kind of how it's working through this question for Jonathan?
Yeah, so we've talked about the idea before on other episodes, this tabular model that CData presents, where instead of having to hit every API endpoint or having specific tools for each API endpoint, you have a limited set of tools, and it allows the LLM to interact with things like Salesforce as if it were a database. And so that's what it's done. So in the previous question, it did a lot of metadata discovery. So it understood like what was available, accounts, opportunities, use cases. And at this point, it's using that information to build these queries. So Jonathan, if you expand, I think any one of these run query tool uses, we can see this really complex SQL query that Claude has put together based on the information that it's already gathered. And then you can see the response that's coming back. So this is a standard model context protocol interaction. A tool is called, the response is processed and given back. But the power, like Marie said, is that the LLM can make sense of it, can do things with it in ways that would take longer for us to do. Right? I don't have to. Jonathan doesn't have to download all of this information, read all of the notes that are in a given opportunity, read the emails that are associated with an opportunity, try to distill that down into use case information. Claude or another LLM can do that with honestly lightning speed and get us to this result that we're looking for, where we've got detailed use case information for opportunities that we didn't have detailed use case information for before.
Yes, exactly. What I used to do before I could use Claude and MCP was to create a report that doesn't have this use case object in the opportunity, and then create a list, and then I start go and look at every conversation and activity that happened with the customer to capture this, and it would take me weeks to cover what happened in like 1 month. And
Yeah.
with Claude, I only spend like a few hours just to ask Claude to create a list and
Yeah.
go over what I really, really want to see.
There you go.
That's great.
Here's what Claude said. How does this look to you so far, Jonathan?
Yes, Claude is now coming back with the 10 use cases I mean, 10 opportunities without use cases, and now it's coming with the use case information.
That's really cool. I
So
see. I mean,
one is CData Sync, our ETL solution, and data source SAP HANA, and destination is Databricks. And this is for analytical. And let's see, we see two HubSpot and likely to be BI tool. And we have QuickBooks and trying to connect from Power BI for analytical use case. We have another QuickBooks online trying to connect from Power BI. And those are all the cases, all the scenario that CData supports.
yeah, that's cool. And what's really cool about this is it pulled it all of this from meeting notes that were in associated with the opportunity or emails that were associated with the opportunity. Like this wasn't written out anywhere, within the opportunity. It was able to glean all this information and compile it together based on this kind of unstructured data that Marie was talking about before. So, I mean, that in and of itself seems really cool. But spoiler, CData MCP servers aren't read-only. You can actually write back. So what are we going to do next, Jonathan?
Of course, because us being able to see these use case data is not enough. The entire team should be able to use these data. So let's write back the number 5 use case information to the use case object associated with the Salesforce.
All right, before you click send, Jonathan, fix that other number 9 in the prompt. You've got number 5 in one place.
No, I want to do for
you've
the
got
number
another
5
number
because
5.
I've already did for number 9 already in the past, so it's already there. So I
Yeah.
have to do with a new one.
But you've got another number 9 in the prompt.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay. So
Did you
let's
want
write this
5?
number 5 use case and write this back to Salesforce use case object, which is associated with the exact opportunity.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is a great thing about CData MCP. It's not read only, and you can just take action right, at the place you actually analyze and saw the data. You can directly move to the action.
Yep.
I'm so curious if this is going to work out. The suspense is real.
I know, right? Yeah. So it made sure that it had a full understanding of the use case custom object because it got the columns, which are all of the fields that are available in that custom object. And then expand that query that's running right now, Jonathan. So let's see. So it's doing a select. So it's getting, So it's getting, it's checking existing use case records to make sure that it understands the format.
Yes,
That's cool.
because there are some like drop down values
Okay.
in those use cases to standardize the data. So it is reading through existing data to learn how the input value should be.
Perfect. Yep. So yep. So yeah, it's looking at these custom fields, which you just said were drop down. So it's making sure that it knows what it can fill in here. And now it's gonna create the use case record.
Oh, here we go.
And is this the first time we've done a write back that isn't closing a ticket, Marie?
Yeah, Jonathan, I think all of our guests have only done query use cases, so you're the first brave soul to write back to Salesforce.
Wow, I am honored.
Yeah, you should be. You should get a badge of honor for this one. But I think, kind of what Jared alluded to is that this is a unique capability of CData connectivity at play here. So because this is built on the drivers and driver business that Jonathan is in charge of, a lot of the great and really deep and really quality connections that we can make with those drivers flows through into this context. And the write back is an example of that. So because we have such, deep and robust connectivity with something like Salesforce, we can handle the data a lot better, which we saw kind of in the early use cases. Like you saw Claude doing a lot of more complex, database functions and system calls that you don't typically see or don't usually see with other MCP servers. So it's like the table aggregation and sorts and filters that we can do across large data sets to even get the 10 opportunities without a use case first as the very first part of this process. And then we use the same kind of database function for the write back. And it's really kind of the strength of that, that use case and that ability for us to do this is because we can handle large data sets coming out of Salesforce for both read and write very well. And so I think that is kind of something you'll see. So, you'll see other MCP servers that are very source specific. They were built for that source. They have very specific actions that they support within that source, but our approach is different in that we kind of take this universal approach, treat every source or system like a database, and you get a lot of versatility and a lot of capability from that. And that's what Jonathan is showing us right now.
Yep.
So it looks like it's checking a primary field.
Yeah.
And also what value it accepts.
Got it. Very thorough, Claude.
Nice.
Here we go.
It's done. So now it's just doing some verification. And it's there.
Wow.
Perfect.
Oh, and it gave you a record ID. How nice. There you go.
Yeah, so now it's not only us, but everybody else can benefit from this use case information in the company. So now, as a product manager, I will ask what I should get from these 10 use case information. This is a very open question, but let's see.
Awesome. And we've seen this failure message pop up a couple times throughout it and haven't called it out yet. So Jared, can you tell us what's happening when we see these error messages?
Yeah, so the LLM doesn't have like a perfect understanding of the data model always, especially the first time it tries to do something. And so like a real user, it could make a mistake in the request that it tries to make. So like formatting error, a syntax error, or something like that. But what's great about working with an LLM is that if the error message is good enough, the LLM can actually self-correct. And so you've seen that happen a couple of times on the screen where that red error message will pop up, but it doesn't clog up Claude. It doesn't stop the operation. It's able to just continue with its action, whatever activity you've asked it to perform. But now we've got some insights, right? Some key market trends. That's cool.
Yeah, Jonathan, tell us what you are seeing from this last question to Claude.
Yes, so definitely we have, 30% of those 10 use cases were related to QuickBooks. to Power BI integration, and 3 out of 10 opportunities. And wow, Microsoft Power BI is deprecating the native QuickBook
Oh, wow.
connector. And we are the trusted partner of Microsoft that support. So we should be definitely supporting those customers who are who use QuickBook native connector in Power BI so that they can move smoothly. So to HubSpot customers and okay, SAP HANA to Azure Databricks, very popular use case. So yeah, the first one is like the exact thing as a product manager I needed to know because there are users that are in need because of some changes in the industry, and we have capability to support, and we need to take action in marketing, in sales, to enable customer to find our solution and try to to make the transition migration as easy and smooth as possible.
That's great.
That's really cool.
Yeah, the cloud is very helpful. And I know, as we started off the top of this call, this kind of identification of the key source to destination pairing is something that we spend a ton of time on with our business because of the huge number of permutations that are important. So even just getting this information alone, Jonathan, I know is helpful for us to just focus on and to direct us. So I think that's great. And that's a wonderful insight for us to wrap up this episode on. So big thank you, Jonathan, for joining us today and for being the first brave soul. You'll go down in history as the first write on the Vibe Querying series. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
No. And thanks to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us, for watching us. If you want to see what your data is saying, you can either hit up the free MCP server beta that's available, cdata.com/solutions/MCP, or if you're interested in exploring remote MCP server capabilities, that feature is now live in Connect Cloud. So if you go to cdata.com/cloud, you can sign up for a free trial of that and get remote MCP server capabilities, which unlocks a lot of opportunity. It's probably the fastest path to getting access to your data from other LLMs outside of Claude. But you can be sure check that out and let us know what questions you have.
That's right. And you can also find the prompts from today's episode and all of our prior episodes on the prompt library on our site on one of those pages that Jared mentioned. Or you can come hang out with us in our Vibe Querying subreddit or in the CData community where we talk about queries, insights, and everything